Welcome to Tea Time with Shayleigh and Amber. I'm Shayleigh Evans, and I'm a life coach for pets and their people. I'm a truth seeker, and it's my passion to empower others and to give animals a voice along the way.
I'm Amber Lydic, and I've been a performance horse trainer focused on behavioral issues for over 20 years. My current passion is creating impactful in-person and online events and collaborating with professionals to be on the leading edge of positive change in the horse industry.
We are two friends invested in theta healing, belief system work, animal communication, and any resources that benefit human-animal partnerships. So turn up the volume and let's dive into the Great Awakening, brought to you by our horses. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are excited to be chatting again. We've been releasing a lot of guest episodes, and now we're back, just the dynamic duo. And we don't really know what we're talking about. Big surprise. However, yes, we do, because I need to tell you about what happened to me this morning, which is so embarrassing, but was kind of a blessing in disguise. So I booked a driver's license appointment. Actually, let me just rewind and tell any of you listening, we think we need a new tagline, because our tagline for the podcast is all the shit your horse wants you to know and what to do about it. And it's kind of evolved into way more than that. So you
So
have
while
any
you're
ideas?
listening, while
Yeah.
you're listening to this episode, let your creative mind come up with a new tagline for us. And it could involve
Especially,
the massive squirrels that we have. Like that was just a massive squirrel.
yeah.
Also, if you like this episode, don't forget to like it and share it. We're
Starting
trying to
out
do things
strong.
right. We're not
Yeah.
starting out. We're not starting out strong this episode, but here we are. We're back.
We got to give you guys some backstory, details. Okay, so I booked an appointment to get a driver's license because somehow I had convinced myself
A
that I
real
did
ID.
not have a real ID. Yeah. Even though my driver's license doesn't expire until 2028 and it has the gold star. And I double checked that when I made my appointment. But I made it anyway. I made it like a month ago, drove all the way down to the DMV, got in my little place in line, or I was about to get in my place in line, and he was like, "No, you're checking in too early. You can only check in 10 minutes in advance." And that is what made me research if I actually have a real ID or not. Not like looking at the gold star, whatever. So I got up early. I drove all the way down there for nothing, because then I got on like Tennessee, whatever. And I was like, what is a real ID? And I think I got convinced because a friend of mine and my husband got their new driver's license and they look like totally different than mine. Like they are all updated or whatever with like certain things on them. And I thought that I had to have all of those little updated things. No, you don't. You just need the star. So I ended up canceling my appointment, and I like got on a voice memo with Amber right away, and I was like, how can someone who's so smart be so freaking dumb at the same time? Like, why did this happen? But I ended up going on like a grand adventure to Tractor Supply, met a nice fellow there that offered to bring my feed out to my car for me. Then I went to the grocery store because I was like, well, I'm here already. And you know how when you're normally alone in the grocery store, like I'm shopping around, I'm looking at muffins, people leave me in my peace. Like I do not connect with people in the grocery store. I usually have my headphones in. And this worker guy just came right up to me and he's like, "What you doing? You need anything? What are you looking for? Do you want me to go in the back to find anything for you?" And I was like, "What?" So then I took advantage of that and was like, "Yes, gluten-free muffins if you have them." And I just ran into like the nicest freaking people when I was out. I don't know why that happened to me. Maybe it's because I had my makeup and my hair down for driver's license day. Maybe it's because I didn't get worked up over that appointment. I don't know, but that's how I started my day.
Mild amounts of chaos. Oh my goodness. Where do we even begin? We haven't done a podcast in so long.
I know. Can I tell you about my dream?
Yeah. Everyone's been having wild dreams lately. If you guys have been having wild dreams and you're watching this episode, like share in the comments with us because the dreams have been real lately. And I don't know what that's about. We should probably ask Denise or something, but go ahead.
Yeah, we definitely should. I was wondering if it was just me because I've been listening to this like body electric Joe Dispenza meditation every night, and I feel like I'm like electrifying my cells before I go to sleep. But I had a dream about a friend of ours and her husband, and I don't know why. Like it just happened to be them facilitating the message for me. But I set this intention a little while ago that I don't really want to connect with others through suffering anymore. And even though I'm not going to ignore the physical pain of my client animals, and I still want to help people with like, the dysfunction for lack of a better word. Um I don't want that to be like the center of things anymore. I just have been moving more and more into like wholeness and love and seeing the good and like yes, you can have a horse that has an abscess and kissing spines and all these things, but then you can also look at the essence of who they are. Like there has to be a balance, and I'm just being more called to like see the wholeness, see the love, see their true self. And so I've been consciously reminding myself that all the time when I like want to pick things apart, or I'm like connecting with my client horse and he's like, I'm happy. And I'm like, really on those feet? And then I'm like, oh yeah, no. We gotta like find that balance. So I had a dream last night that there was this little black like 5-year-old. At first I thought it was bro, but in like I can't remember if it was or not, but it was like this black 5-year-old racehorse. And this man was like, look at how much he's accomplished in 5 years. And like it really broke his body down and kind of destroyed him, but like he did so much. And me and this other person were like, what? No, this is horrible. Like the industry is so corrupt. It's so horrible. I should say that I don't love the race industry. I just don't think it really honors the horses, even though I love thoroughbreds, and it's just throwing that in there. But so we were like trying to like rebuttal with all the suffering. Like we were like, no, like he's completely ruined. He's not gonna have a good quality of life for the rest of his life. And like this person just kept coming back with like, but yeah, look at all the joy he brought. Look at all the places he went, the horses he met, the things he did, like how he used his body to his fullest and blah blah blah. And it's funny because in my dream, I couldn't see it that way. Like in my dream, I was like forcing him to try to see my point of like, yeah, I get that he did all these things, but it's like at the expense of humans. It's at the expense of everything else. And he was like, don't you know that this like horse came into this experience for a reason? It was like such a dream that one would think I would have. And I woke up after that and I was like, whoa, my subconscious was really battling itself there because there is that realist side of me who like knows that suffering energy is what resonates with most people. Like it just is. Like most people are just in that space of like how can I get this horse and help them out of their suffering, or we unite in suffering or whatever. And so it's kind of a tough space to be in, to be like, yeah, your horse can be having all these things, but also you're trying to focus on that wellness. Why is that? Why is it that like I don't know if I'm wording this right, but I think you'll understand what I'm trying to say and you'll formulate it better for me. But one, I want to hear what your thoughts about the dream, but two, why is it that like it almost feels wrong if you were to have a horse that was in like some sort of chronic pain and still being ridden? This is just the example that's coming to me. If someone who I guess it would be like the difference between toxic positivity and then also seeing the good, right? Like someone who was like, well, the horse isn't bucking the person off and I feel like what people do with companion animals is they're like, well, they're eating and drinking. They're eating and drinking. They're fine. Like that's what people do with dogs. But like, where's the balance between recognizing what's going on, but then also seeing their wholeness?
Because I feel like there is that saying, and I think it's like Peter Crone, or I can't remember who it is, who it's like you can't be sad enough to make somebody else happy. And I think like a lot of people will do that because I resonate with the connecting through suffering because I did that my entire life. It's like when everyone
Mm-hmm.
gets together and you're like, oh my gosh, this, me too. Oh my gosh. And it's for some reason it's easier because I feel like it's almost you're taught when you're young that, well, at least this human piece, you're taught when you're young that you don't want to be boastful, you don't want to make people feel bad, you don't want to. So it's almost like this weird thing that's ingrained in us at a young age where where you kind of have to be at someone's level to find the connection. And even like if you do really good in school, like sometimes you're teased for it or you're like ostracized for being the smartest or being the.
Hmm.
And so I think it almost like from a young age, you learn that that actually creates disconnection. And then I think there's people are really empathetic if they have animals most of the time. I mean, there are some people that just use them for their careers or whatever, but I don't think people start out that way. I think you don't get into horses to make money. I mean,
Hmm.
at some point, you got into horses because you loved them for what they were, and then maybe it mutated into something different when you got caught up in, the business side of it. But I think people are empathetic and it feels wrong to look away from that stuff. But at the same time, that's not where healing is created. So if you only focus on the dysfunction, then the dysfunction is going to stay dysfunctioning. But if you can, especially because we already know that a lot of horses will have all this stuff wrong, quote unquote, and they can be perfectly happy. And it's like the same as us. Like if you took me and did a scan of my body and put me into a horse form, my owner would probably be like, this horse is lame and we should not be riding her. But I feel fine. I go out and function just fine. I am active and I go do all the things. Like nobody's physical bodies are perfect. And horses are the same thing. So I think, but it's hard to tell, right? Like for some people, how do they know? If they're not actively in a place where they feel like they can actually connect, unless they have somebody like you telling them they feel great, focus here and that will resolve. I think it's hard for the regular person just doing life that doesn't even know that they can do that. And what's crazy to me is that I have like over the last like month met like two or three people that are like animal communicator. Like they talk to animals and I was like I guess I'm living in a box where that's just normal because I talk about it like it just is. And some people are still like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, dude, it just is. So I forget. So I think they're like those two parts, right? People want to feel empathetic, but and also I know that people will take and can look at anything and find the dysfunction in it because somehow it will serve a need for them. Um, if there's an underlying belief that if, you ride, you have to be seen and judged, therefore you'll be judged. So it serves you to have a horse that's lame and you can pick apart anything and you will find lameness. I mean, there are hardly any horses out there that are like perfect. Like, I mean, maybe there are, but none that I have here. Like, I can look at each and every one of my horses and be like, that's not perfect. Are they dead lame? No. But, but I could obsess over that and I could make it a big deal if it served me. Um, so I think there's like a combination of a lot of things that go on in that realm.
Yeah, definitely. I guess what I'm like getting clear on after listening to you is it's about the pity. So it's not about becoming like toxically positive to where you're like, my horse has an abscess, but it's totally fine and we can like continue on like or like you're not ignoring it, but when you go into that vibrational energy of pity, that is I think the message that I'm trying to convey to people because every time I talk to an animal, I can see, and this is fascinating. I didn't really think about it like this until now, but they will show something going on with them, but then immediately, almost always counteract it with something positive. So they'll be like, this hurts, but my food is better. This is this way, but this is better. And they always like kind of say, because it's like a balance. And I think they really know that there's a balance. But one thing that they really don't I shouldn't say they don't like, but they try to move us away from is like that pity energy of like, oh, poor you. Because I think on the deepest levels, they understand that they're deliberate creators of their experience on like, and sometimes they have to go through pain in order to get the change that they want because maybe their job doesn't suit them and if they continue performing perfectly they're going to do this job for forever and ever until the end of time and
Mm.
maybe they don't want that so if they get an injury then it's like a job and a career change so we underestimate how much our animals actually ask for but the pity piece is something that I'm really working on trying to I don't know that I've ever like pitied my animals, but it's like that pain, that
Mm.
like our own suffering that comes with seeing animals in dysfunction. Like I am trying to get rid of that hoe. I do not want her in my life anymore. I need to remember that, and something that I'm trying to offer my clients is like we're all living our own experience. And yes, I understand some people might not have animal communication or feel as connected, but hopefully most people can read like a pain face or like like a scrunchy face, or if the horse backs up or if the horse pins their ears or whatever the case may be. I think most people can kind of understand that language. But remembering to mind our own business sometimes. Someone said something to me not too long ago that was along the lines of if my horse or my animals are presenting something to me and I don't immediately get an inspired action, or maybe it was an animal who told me this. If I don't get immediate inspired action on it, like if I see the lameness and I'm not immediately like, oh, I need a cold hose that, or I need to get a vet, or I need to this, um, then I just mind my own business and trust that if I'm meant to do something, if I'm meant to be seeing this, then the inspiration will come or the message will come. But until then, I need to just let them live their lives, which I think we all could do a little more of because we're all obsessed with our animals. And I mean, no one wants to be like the way we talk about our horses, especially, we would be so annoyed if a human was saying these things to us.
That's like the struggle, right? It's like the line between being compassionate and pity is a very fine line. And when I started coaching, I realized that when I started receiving more sessions from people, and there was one coach that I had who I could feel the pity. Like, that's really hard. Oh gosh, that's really hard. But it wasn't like, oh gosh, that's hard. I empathize. Here's what we could do about it, or what, let's get curious about it. It was like, oh gosh, you're never gonna figure this out. And I was like, ew, I will never do that to a client. Um, so it's interesting, it's this fine balance of I'm not gonna get sucked into that with you. And another thing where I feel like for my whole life, when people would ask about my dad, I almost didn't want to tell people because I felt so much pity come from them. And I didn't want to feel that because it's so gross. So I would actually go over and above to be like, oh, he died, but it was no big deal. Like I went into this weird, like, you know, because I hated it. I hated when people felt pity on me. And I think that made me hyper aware of what that feels like when it's coming at you, because it kind of disempowers the person that it's
Mm-hmm.
being aimed at. And there's the line of being empathetic and compassionate, but then also being like, and I know that there is another side to this, and I'm not worried about you not getting through this. I know it sucks right now, but I also know whatever is going to happen, and you're going to be able to look back, and it's either this life or maybe in the next lifetime. I don't know, but you're going to look back and realize why it happened. And I can hold that energy while someone is sharing their hard thing with me. And I think that's why people can figure it out. Um, because the pity thing is gross. And I think anyone had that experience where something hard is going on, and if someone you feel the pity energy and it feels very
Mm-hmm.
like destitute is the word that comes to mind. Like there's no hope for you. That sucks. You're gonna be there forever. How miserable your life must be. Good luck. I'm out, you know? So I feel like for people to do that to their horses, the horses are so sensitive to that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I think in the very beginning when we first started talking, one of my questions to you was like, do horses feel pity? Because it was something that was so like gross to me. And I was like, I feel like horses don't do that to each other. They don't do it to themselves. They don't do it to each other. Like, and I remember having that conversation with you like a long time ago. Pity is out. We're not doing pity.
Yeah, because it's so different than compassion. Like you think of a horse, or you think of animals in general. I was just watching a video today of a little baby was on the ground crying, and a puppy went up to it and was like licking its face and snuggling it. And it's like the puppy is not showing pity, the puppy showing care. Like, hey, what's going on with you? What do you need in order to stop crying? It's not
Mm.
like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that you're suffering and nobody loves you and you're all alone on this cold, hard floor. Like, it's just so different. But it's wild how we want to slip into that. And I think part of it stems from like us, well, I'm sure part of it's like responsibility when it comes to our animals and us, like that whole I know what's better for you to some variant. Like it's not like we're thinking like, oh, I know what's best for you in such a strong way, but like I'm thinking of Gino. So for those of you that don't know or don't follow me on social media, I had a friend pass away and I took her horse. And the really cool thing about it is that her horse and my horse were together 12 years ago. She rescued them on my birthday. They were abandoned at a racetrack. And um weirdly, I saw the other day that his birthday is like a day after Biggie's, which is so weird, or a day before or
Oh,
something like that. Like they're literally there in like the same week.
that's weird.
Yeah, and so as soon as I found out she died, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to take him. Like if they'll give him to me, I'm going to take him." And so we did the little trek down there and I connected with him, got him. He integrated into my herd perfectly. Like literally, I unloaded him from the trailer, and this is not like a normal circumstance. I don't think I have ever just got a horse off a trailer and like put them in a field, but I just knew that something, well, I brought them all into the barn first and I introduced them one by one, but I just knew. I was like, if she died, she's his guardian angel. I feel so connected to her. I've known her for over a decade. If this horse is meant to come to me, all my horses are going to be perfect. Like I just had such a strong belief around it that like it was, and then it was so perfect that I was like, where's the love? Where's the drama? Like I was like, that's it. Like I could tell that they knew each other, but it was just kind of funny because it was so anticlimactic. And I was like, um, but his teeth are really bad and his feet are really bad. And the other day, so the first day I did his feet, I just had like compassion because I didn't know him. I was like, all right, I saw how like long and bad they were, and I was like, oh man, that sucks. And then I was like excited to get the bars off. I was like, let's just like fix up these feet, whatever. But I find myself going into pity with the teeth because I know how uncomfortable like teeth can be. I used to have like a tooth issue when I was a kid. And I just know, and then horses send me tooth pain all the time. It's like all consuming. It's like teeth and then ulcers in the body. Like those are just the strongest, most like all consuming pains for them. And so I can feel the pain and see like the pathologies in his body and stuff. And yet anytime I go into pity, he will like pin his little ear. It's so funny because he knows like I'll feed him. And yeah, I felt myself slipping into it yesterday because I went to feed him and I was like, oh, um I was like, should I add like a little more water to this? And he like pushed me forward with his nose. He was like, get out of here and give me my food. Like, I've been eating fine for 20 years. Who are you to come in and say that I can't handle the teeth that I have right now? All right. Like, this is fine. And I almost went into it with his feet the other day because I trimmed his hind feet again. Like, I've been trimming them every couple of days just to do it gradually. And I went to turn him out and he like took one lame step and I was like, in the front foot. And I was like, oh shit, like I should bring him back into the barn and trim him. Like I was like, I feel so bad for him. And he trotted off and like literally looked back at me and was like, can you leave me? Like, what is this energy? And I realized that I do that with my animals so often, like with Sage. And remember, you had to come up with the bionic bean for me. I felt so called out when you were like, some people, what did you say earlier? They need their animals to have something wrong with them or like that is me where I am consistently like I'll see a little bit of like and I'm like, oh, I know too much or whatever. And I have to reel myself in. I don't know why I'm like that. I think it's a fear of loss or like a fear of like it's my not enoughness that always crops up where I'm like, oh, I should have done a little bit more for you. And I'm constantly learning that lesson of like, mind your own business, man. You're so nosy. Let me take the step that I take, okay?
I take lame steps all the time.
Ah, dude, yeah. I'm always riding my husband too. And he's like, Can you go somewhere else? Like, leave me alone. The other day he coughed and I was all, what's going on there, huh? I was all, do you need a vitamin? Have you taken some vitamin C? How's your throat feeling? Yeah, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how does it feel? He's like, dude, I just coughed. I don't know what that is about me. I don't know why I'm like that, but I immediately go into like fix it mode. But what's funny is that's the exact reason why I can't cry in front of him because he wants to fix me. And I'm like, don't try to fix me. I just need to feel how I feel. Meanwhile, throughout his life, I'm like, what's going on there? Why are you looking like that? Why did you huff just now?
I think it's just a combination of being super compassionate and then also knowing a lot and also having to remember that everyone's on their own path, doing their own things. Because we talk about like racehorses and I feel like this is going to segue right into that little tree. Um, we talk about, had this conversation because I am like, am I not a compassionate person? Has been the
Yeah.
question that's like swirling around in certain aspects of my life.
Which
I'm
is
like,
so
oh,
ridiculous because you are.
yeah. I mean, I feel like I am, right? I think I don't show it in the way that translates to people. Like I'm in a way where I'm like, I can see when someone shares something with me, I see why it's happening. Like I can see
Mm-hmm.
forward through it. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course that's because this and this. But you can't do that to people. You
I
can't be like,
know.
oh, do you want me to tell you why this is happening? It's fine. You're
I
gonna like
do that
nobody.
to people. It always bites me in the butt.
Yeah. So I keep my mouth shut. Meanwhile, I know that the suffering will end and I know that how awesome it is on the other side. I can watch it all play out in my head this moment someone is saying something to me and I just have to listen to it. So I think A, that's why I don't fall into pity, but then also it leaves, I'm on the other side of it already. And these people are like, I need a hug. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm sorry. Fuck. And, but also what I had to do and is like, because if you start to look around, you start to see how much stuff there is that you could be sad about. Like I have a friend of mine who on social media will constantly post the dogs in the shelter that are have 24 hours left. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, it's always like, oh God, this dog's so cute. I also know I can't save every creature on the planet. And I also know if I spend time feeling into the suffering of each of these situations. And we don't even know if that dog is suffering. Like maybe they chose here to connect with who they connected with. Their job was done. They're like, this was the path. I'm ending. I gotta go because I got this new body, this new contract I gotta fulfill. This is the quickest way out. Like we don't
Mm-hmm.
know. So who are
Mm-hmm.
we to go, oh, you poor thing? So I found myself there is a balance of I can't get wrapped up in all of this because I feel like everyone chooses. There's contracts, there's decisions that are made, there's free will, and also the conversation around people that have a life filled with suffering. And I was saying, I feel like what happens is that karmically, there's a rebalance that needs to happen. And in my brain, I had this whole picture play out where like your soul transitions, you go back to wherever you go back to, and like you've got decisions to make because of free will. And you're like, okay, well, this karma needs to be cleared, whether it's through your family line or whatever. You can choose 5 years of mundane, boring, soul-sucking existence. 5 lifetimes, not 5 years. 5 lifetimes of that. Or you can have one lifetime that's really shitty, but then it's cleared. And then the second lifetime you come back and you get to have something much more rewarding and fulfilling and fun and exciting and filled with love and all the things. And I was like, I would choose one life of suffering. But I don't know, it seems like a no-brainer. So I think that's either a story I tell myself to feel better about what happens in the world, or it's true. I don't know. Either way. Um, but we're talking about my Christmas tree. You guys, my Christmas tree looks like it has scoliosis. Usually we go to the brewery that has a lumberyard next door and they bring in all of these like perfectly shaped trees. They are all perfect. And you literally walk through the thing and you picked the more perfect tree because they're all pretty perfect. You pull one out, you drink a beer, you go home. Well, we went to a Christmas tree farm and not like the ones in the mountains, but like a lot where they actually grow the trees. some that we picked from were fresh cut, and then you can go cut them, and they're all laid up in these like rows and these racks that hold them up. And Johnny, we walked through a bunch, and he picked one tree and was like, "That's our tree." I didn't question it. I didn't pull it out. I didn't like examine it and judge it. And I was saying that if my mom was with us, that was what would have happened because she does that to the perfect trees. Okay, we'll pull the most perfect tree, and she's like, "No, I don't know." And I'm like, "Can we just get a tree?" Like. So we didn't have her last night, so Johnny said that's her, and I said, okay, load her in the cart.
That's her.
That's the one. Load her in the cart. Loaded her up. Didn't really look at it. It was dark. Whatever. Got home, throw her in a little pot of water last night, and today we're my boyfriend's here and chopped off its little stump and threw her in the stand, and I was like, we'll have to put a picture up. We'll put a little
Yeah,
picture
we'll have to
right
make
here
her the picture of the
because
podcast.
because it's just literally like the stand is here and it's like she goes up and out like over here. I was like, well, she's straight as she's gonna be. And I sent Shayleigh a video of my little scoliosis tree. And then I think not the last episode, but the episode before, we posted an episode with Kira Daniels. If you guys have not seen that, you should go watch it.
Mhm.
Um, then Shayleigh shares with me this little excerpt that she just spoke about Christmas trees this morning. And you want to tell the peeps
Yeah.
what she said?
I was perusing Instagram and yeah, I follow Kara Daniels on there. She's a tree communicator. Well, a being communicator. She communicates to like animals, wildlife, plants, trees, the earth. Um, she's super cool if you guys haven't found her yet. But someone had asked her a question like how do you feel about all these trees that get farmed and cut down for Christmas? We're in that time of year. She was like, while it's sad, it's really interesting because when you communicate to, or when she has communicated to trees that were specifically farmed to be perfect for Christmas trees, she's like, the uniform trees, they knew their job. They were like at attention, perfect, like waiting to be picked, know their destiny, and they like came to fulfill that. And then she was like, but if you choose a little wild grown tree, a little squirrely one, she said that she connected with a bunch of them that were like, had little patches missing or like were a little bit weird, and they loved themselves. Like they thought that they were like spectacular. They were looking for like the perfect person. They didn't want to just go to any one person, but they know that they couldn't compete with the uniform trees. So there was like a little sadness. I could be interjecting this, but I feel like there was sadness around like the wild ones like being farmed and then not chosen, so like their energy would kind of go to waste essentially. Um but she said some of the wild ones like really want to be picked, like you get drawn to them. And I was like, oh my God, Amber, it's like Johnny got drawn to this little crooked tree. And it's interesting too that he chose it because we were looking up his numerology and he has a master number as is his life path number, and like everything within his energy is like he's the great philosopher. He's extremely psychic without even trying and all of these things. And I was like, of course he picked that one. Like he just knew. And then Kara goes on to say like, yeah, and sometimes these trees, like you'll just hear them singing in your living room. Like they're just so happy. And I was like, oh, how exciting. The tree's going to be so perfect in there. So yeah, I think it's great that you have a little crooked tree. I was like, you'll just have to decorate her heavy on one side.
Oh man.
Speaking of like, speaking of, well, but you don't feel bad for your tree, right? And you don't feel bad for you that you got that tree. You're just like, it is
Mm-mm.
what it is.
Okay.
Do you feel bad for plants that are dying? Like if they don't have, I've totally pitied a plant before,
Oh,
actually.
I pitied our plant.
Yeah,
That's why we got her.
that's interesting.
She's
So,
thriving
like,
now.
are they teaching us lessons in pity? Our plants? Are plants okay with pity? We need to have Kara on
Oh,
again. We
I
need to
know. We should
know.
have. I feel like I didn't pity the plant for long though. Like the initial, oh my gosh, that plant. I don't know if or somewhere, if I could ever find the link, I'd post it, but I'm just not that good. That there was a time when I talked about a plant that we have that we found at the grocery store. She was severely dehydrated. And so I wasn't looking for a plant. It was one of those real viney ones. So she's all over my living room now. And we were at the grocery store, and me and my son saw it, and we got the plant and we got it to the register. And the guy checking us out actually was like overwhelmed by how dry she was and left his register with a big ass line, went and got his water bottle that he was drinking at lunchtime, watered her, leaked all over the thing at the grocery store, gave the water bottle to Johnny and was like, make sure you water her, give her small sips. And I was like, is this happening right now? Um, but once I watered, but they recover so quickly. So I
Hmm.
watered her. She perked back up, and pity was gone. And I don't know if
You
it
know
was.
what's so interesting about that though is like there's such a strong belief around that. Like, you will live if I give you this water. As soon as you get
Mm-hmm.
water, instantly you're
Mm-hmm.
going to bounce back. There's not a doubt in the world that you're going to survive. If we afforded that to our horses,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's so crazy how well their bodies could heal because bodies love to heal. Bodies love to find their homeostasis. So if we were able to be like, I'm going to give you, I mean, that's what we talk about, right? Like the law of attraction, the energy behind everything, your belief in it is what makes it so it sets forward that vibration. So if you were like, my dog is going to get this knee surgery and it's going to fix all of his problems and it stopped there, or I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to give my horse this meds and it's going to help with his ulcers and it stopped there,
Mm-hmm.
then everything can fall into place around that. But I feel like what we end up doing is it's like, I'm going to give these pills for ulcers. Oh God, he was really spooky today. It was windy. I don't know. I think the ulcers are back. They're definitely bleeding. They're in the hind gut. I got to give him one more thing. Then you give him one more thing. And you're like, oh, but I can't tell. And there's so many supplements. And we just go on like this rampage around like keeping them where they are and like focusing so deeply on what is. It's so fascinating. But
Yeah.
yeah, it
And
is
I
interesting.
feel like the cure for that is what helps me is to go into that same thing, that surrender of like, I'm gonna do this thing. It's what I've been inspired to do. And the best possible outcome is gonna be exactly what it's supposed to be to lead me to the next thing I'm supposed to be doing. Like, and there's nothing that can be different about that. No matter what I do, no matter what decision I make, it's going to put me on the path that I need to be. That it's either going to take longer or it's going to be shorter. As I basically feel like the path that I'm on is going to be the path that I'm on, and the only thing that changes is the timeline. And
I
so the
like
more
that.
you surrender to what isness and let go of the resistance of I don't need the suffering, I don't need it to be this catastrophic thing that happens in my life. I don't need the drama. I think becoming aware of how addicted we get to that. I'm aware of it for many reasons now, not for myself, but for people around me, where I'm like, yeah, this is a really hard situation. And also you putting yourself into suffering and turmoil is not making it change. It's not making it better. And I think that's a really hard concept for people to grasp when they're very sad, losing loved ones, or, having big life changes. It's like, that's where I go, how can I show up more compassionately without getting sucked into
Hmm.
this situation that will not help you. It will not help you if I get sucked in down with you. Um, so it's an interesting balance. But I think the way that I do it is like things are going to be what they are. You might as well appreciate what is right now in front of you and know that the only thing that's changing is the timeline. So like you're going to get what you're going to get and it's going to happen the way it needs to happen. And but that's tricky.
Wow, that's fascinating because that's how animals feel. Well, they don't live in our time space reality, but they talk about like they just kind of know that all paths will lead them to where they need to go. And they will often tell me, like, yeah, I had to go through all of these shitty saddles because I knew at some point it was going to get me a better one. Or like I had to go through all of these changes in my feet or my body because I knew at some point if I just kept asking and I just kept being open to receiving, that I was going to get to this space that I wanted to be in or needed to be in. They have such little resistance around that. No matter, I just made a post about this today. Like, no matter how they don't care the timeline, they become so firm in their ask and they don't really care how it happens or where, like, how long it's going to take or whatever. They're just kind of like, this is what I want and I'm going to get it at some point. And they always do, which is so fascinating. But that like sparks up my little memory. This is a little longer of an episode, peeps. But that just sparks my memory of when people say, and we were talking about this the other day, when it rains, it pours. or
Hmm.
like, oh, it's flu season and like we're gonna get sick. And I have this mantra this season where it's like, I can stay healthy regardless of what other people are doing, and my immune system is strong and all these things. Because I did feel a little tickle. And I was like, nope, I am a
No.
strong, independent woman who don't need no virus, bacteria. Like, no, no, no. And it's fascinating how there's these societal beliefs and they're just wafting around in the air. Like people just constantly. I was on a group text message the other day and someone was like, "Oh, I have this, this, and this," and the reply was, "When it rains, it pours." And I'm like, why are people always reaffirming that belief? It's so fascinating.
And also, because I always think of like viruses and stuff like that. It's like your body's way of getting what it needs, right? It needs to be cleared out.
Mm-hmm.
So it brings a fever in, you get mucus. So if you were doing other things to clear your system out all the time, like jumping on a reformer or a trampoline, cleaning out your lymph system, taking supplements that do that for you, doing the things your body needs, and resting because you're talking about fall, autumn, whatever you want to call it, which is a time where leaves are dying, old stuff is coming off, like clearing out, the trees are clearing themselves out, and then they go dormant and they rest. We as humans do not do those things. So our body forces it, like a force reset for us, because we don't listen to what nature is telling us that needs to be done. Um, and so for me, I feel like that's another thing that I'm in my current reality is someone who, you know, like, oh God, I'm getting sick. I'm getting sick. And I'm like, are you though? Or do you just need to rest? Like
You
we
know
don't
what's
need.
funny though is that I don't do that to myself, but I do that to Justin, and he's like, "Leave me alone." Like he'll have one little sniffle, and I'm like, "Oh God!" Like take vitamin C. I immediately am like, worst case scenario. I'm like, "Oh, I see so many white blood cells in your energy field. Like you're going down."
Oh my
He's like, and he'll be like, I'm trying to feel fine and live my life. And it's like almost like I'll create that experience for him. Why is that? That's so gross. I need to get rid of that.
God. We need to get curious about it. You don't get rid of it. Just get curious about it. And when it happens, just be like, that's interesting. I wonder why I do that to you. And then go on a deep dive into your own self.
Yeah, because
Leave him out
probably
of it.
fear that he's going to get me sick. And I'm over here trying to work on my own vibration. And I'm like, oh, God, you're bogging me down. But no one can bog you down unless you let them. So you're right. It's back to me. It's back to me. But I love that you're that energy of like, are you really getting sick?
Mhm.
Or do you just need sleep? Do you just need, I mean, I know from experience that meditation, like you can literally meditate anything away. It's so crazy. And because I did have a little like twinge in my throat the other day, and I spent like 20 minutes just like cultivating the energy like from the earth and like bringing it into that space. And then I was fine for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I think we forget that that's what our bodies are meant to do, and that we can also share that energy with our animals and support them in that, at least not create more resistance. We don't want to create the bogging down near them.
Yeah,
So,
fun times.
is that the end? Did we
I
run
think that's
out?
the end.
That is how it ends. It just stops. The flow just stops. This is a long one. Sorry, not sorry, everyone. We had a lot to talk about today. We do have a lot of exciting things coming up. We don't have any of them on the calendar yet, but promise, promise they're exciting. We're going to chat about that. Not right now, but likely in the next episode, we'll have lots of things to share with you. If you guys liked this episode, go ahead and share it with the world. Also, if you feel like, I don't know, you have a tagline for us right
Hmm.
now, our current tagline is all of the shit that your horse wants you to know and what to do about it. Well, I do feel like it's mildly representing what we talk about, but there's so much more when we talk about.
Hmm.
So we just are thinking about the pod for 2025 and the expansion of her and what she needs to go out into the world and do. And we feel like we need a new tagline. So if you guys have any suggestions, throw them out there for the world. We'll probably maybe we'll throw something on the little social media, get some suggestions there too. So I don't know. Um, Shayleigh has we have a little contest going on right now. Do you want to talk about that?
I do have a little contest. It's so fun. So I'm giving away a couple free readings. If you like our tea time with Shayleigh and Amber, either on Instagram or Facebook or both, and share your favorite podcast episode and then comment an emoji. I am going to pick the winners, I think around like the 15th. So you have plenty of time to share your episode. The simple little contest, but it'll be fun because I've been feeling really inspired to kind of give some sessions away. So
Fun. And also our membership.
oh,
Our
so
little
fun.
membership is the best thing ever. Our
We're doing a
members,
contest in there
we
actually
are
right
doing a
now for
contest
our
there.
little companion animals, more free
Mhm.
readings. Except all you have to do is post a picture of your animal, and then I'm gonna
Oh,
randomly
there's
choose
so
one.
many cute pictures in there. So the membership is we do a once a month tea, we call it a tea party. It's Shayleigh and Amber's tea house. And we do a tea party once a month and it changes. Sometimes it's a question and answer. We kind of put a poll in, see what people want. Sometimes we do a little journey excursion into your mind, and some channeling of the animals that are in there. Um, and then we do a book club and we just do random little fun things in there. And this is like a little family. Like people get in there, they don't leave, which
I
is
know.
not typical for a membership. They've created a little space in there that's so super fun. So if you guys want more, that's what's happening is more. More is happening in there. And it's only like $33 a month. Oh, you can't go wrong. So yeah, and you get discounts on some of the programs that we do. Sometimes you get free shit. I don't know. It's
Mm-hmm.
fun. So, and you get to learn about all the in-person stuff we do first. You get your first dibs. And we're doing in-person stuff in 2025 because it's fun and we're going to do that. So
Yeah.
get in there. Is that it? Are we done?
See you guys later.